Welcome to What Not to Do. I'm Kyle Schmitz, and this is episode 18. I've got David Mendoza with me. He is an educator turned entrepreneur. We're going to talk food, Foo Fighters, and of course, failure. This was actually my first remote conversation, and it will not be my last. It's awesome. Hold tight. David's all the way in Toronto. We'll be right back. All right. So I am super excited. Not only am I with David Mendoza all the way in Toronto, Canada, but this is actually my first remote podcast interview. And so I'm just stoked for a bunch of different reasons. And it might have a little to do with coffee as well, too. So, but David Mendoza, welcome, man. You are an educator turned entrepreneur. And I'm really excited to dig into your story. So welcome. Thanks for being on.
Thank you so much, Kyle, for having me in your show. It's amazing that we just connected literally maybe 10 days ago.
Yeah.
Through LinkedIn, and now we get the chance to talk and exchange ideas and thoughts. And
wow, it's amazing.
It's beautiful.
And something I love talking about is how technology has leveled the playing field for people across the world, where we could connect. We're thousands of miles away, and yet we can connect in real time. See each other, which is awesome,
yes.
and be able to learn from each other, which is so cool. I'm so pumped.
Yes, because I understand that your preference is meeting up in person, sharing a coffee or beer.
Yeah,
we didn't have the chance to do it because we are like miles apart. This is a great opportunity for us to chat and hopefully for other people to hear my story and get inspired. To walk a path that leads to well-being and happiness. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Oh, I'm already fired up. Well, cool. So some of our listeners might know who you are if they're within your network, but a lot probably don't. So, David, just kind of tell us a little about who you are, what you love to do, where you come from, and let's start with there. Who are you, David?
Perfect. So, as you mentioned at the beginning of our chat, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an educator as well. I was born and raised in Colombia in South America, and I moved to Canada in the year 2006. So I've been living in this amazing land for the past 14 years. Yeah. And after such a long time, I feel I am as Canadian as I am Colombian, which I feel very fortunate about, because not a lot of people have the privilege of saying that they hold citizenships from two of the most amazing countries in the world.
Yeah.
So I came here 14 years ago. I'm still single. Last time I was with someone probably was like 2 years ago. So I've been busy. I've been focusing on myself and growing my business, on traveling the world as well.
Yeah. Well, if there's any ladies listening, right? If there's any ladies listening, David Mendoza is a single man.
I would say if there's any guys listening, actually.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So, reach out.
We'll have David's contact information on the show, right?
There you go.
Awesome.
So here's the thing. I went through a very negative experience growing up within the education sector.
Okay.
I was not I didn't feel supported by the system. I did pretty good when I was in elementary school, but when I moved to secondary school, I did really, really bad. And that had a deep impact in my life because I thought that I was not smart. But then as an adult, I came to the realization that no, it was not that. It was just the courses that I was forced to take were not aligned with my interests.
Yeah.
So it was a negative experience. So what I do now is trying to turn that negative experience into something very positive for the students that I work with and provide them with a memorable educational and life experience that inspire them to do the things that they love to do. So moved to Toronto. I'm a foodie. I love travel. I love cultures. I love languages. I speak 3 languages fluently. Awesome. Spanish is my first language, and then English. And I speak Portuguese as well, so I can work and present in those 3 languages.
So cool.
Other than that, I have an intermediate level in French, and I have foundations in Italian and German. And recently I started learning Mandarin.
That's awesome.
Because I was supposed to go to to Shanghai on a teaching assignment for a couple months.
Yeah.
I was supposed actually to leave this Friday, but then 3 weeks ago, our program got suspended until further notice because of the virus. So I thought I'm going to, get my feet wet in Mandarin. So when I get there, the transition is not as rough.
Yeah.
So I'm a language person. I'm a culture person.
Yeah.
I love working with people from all walks of life, different languages, different accents, all that stuff. So that's my jam. Working with students is my jam.
Yeah. And one thing I thought was so cool was going back to you being a foodie was you do these culinary travels. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I also do for work within the educational realm is I plan and lead culinary tours around the world. So what we do is we take students who are trained to become chefs, and we take them to different destinations so that they get international exposure and so that they make connections, so that they experience other realities, to get inspired, to come here, to come back to school here in Toronto stronger and become more marketable in the hospitality industry and beyond. Yeah. So we've been very fortunate to take students to destinations, including Peru. It all started with Peru, actually. That was the first trip that I had the chance to create and lead. And then we have done Costa Rica, we've done Spain, we've done Portugal, we've done Mexico, and we have other destinations in mind as well. There are profs that want to take students to, for example, to the Netherlands on a cheese and food tour. Mm-hmm. So we're planning that. There's another prof that wants to take their students to San Francisco. There's another prof who wants to take the students on a Scandinavian tour in Denmark and Sweden. Yeah. So there's a lot of interest, and I think it's beautiful because nowadays the academic institutions, they have to, students don't have to get ready for college anymore. College has to get ready for students. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know that it's not a secret that nowadays we can, you can be self-taught in so many areas. So a lot of students, they don't have to go through the college system. Mm-hmm. So when they do decide to go, the college has to provide them with initiatives and experiences that take the learning beyond the classroom. Yeah. Because the reality is that you go through LinkedIn Learning, YouTube, and these platforms, and you can get trained for free or just, by paying a small fee, right? Yeah.
Udemy, like $10 for a course?
Udemy, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's been fascinating. First, because I've managed to create this opportunity through a partnership that I built with a travel provider called Evolve Tours. So it's a dream come true because I get paid to travel the world and to eat amazing foods, and those are the two things that I love doing in life the most.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So, and you hail from Colombia, is that correct?
Yes.
So do you have a particular kind of favorite food that you love, or a couple of different types of food that you really, really enjoy?
Like Colombian or in general?
Or just in general, yeah.
In general, well, I think my favorite dish of all time is paella, Spanish paella. Yeah, okay. I love rice, and just to see that mix of rice with chicken and rabbit sometimes, and all the spice and the saffron, is a beautiful dish. The preparation is formidable and it's super tasty. So that I like a lot. And I like Mexican cuisine as well. Mm-hmm. So tacos, because you can put anything in a tortilla. Anything you can put in a tortilla, and it's delicious. So those two things, I would say.
That's awesome.
Also last year I had the chance to travel to South Korea.
Yeah.
And I eat Korean food here in Toronto pretty often, but the Korean grill that we find here has nothing to do with the one that you find there. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it was amazing. It was like packed with flavor. The lady who helped us in the first restaurant that we went to was so hospitable. She knew that we didn't speak the language, and that's why she did everything for us. Wow. And she just provided that experience. Yeah. That was memorable. So that's another dish, if you will, that I think about very often as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So I lived in Minneapolis for about 8 years, and there was about a block and a half from where I lived. There was this wonderful Colombian restaurant called Maria's.
Yes, right.
And you're going to have to help me out here. You could order these biscuits that I think were made out of corn.
Yeah.
Do you recall what those?
So like they look like a half moon, and they're stuffed with like beef or potatoes or something.
Nope. It was just kind of like a biscuit. Like I would get them kind of like
like a biscuit. Yeah. What shape do they have?
Just kind of like a circular shape. It was a circle, but it wasn't like round like a ball. So I guess it's just like a cylinder.
Okay. Maybe. Well, there's a few. Like now that you're talking about it, there's a few. There's one called almojábana. Maybe that's the one that you're referring to. No. Pan de bono, pan de yuca.
No.
Empanadas, no, because empanadas are the one that are filled. Buñuelos. I don't know.
Anyway,
savory or sweet?
Savory,
eh?
And it would come with the cotija cheese on it. You could sprinkle cotija cheese.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to think of it.
Oh, arepas.
Yes,
arepas.
Thank you. That's it.
Arepas. Yes, arepas.
Oh,
yeah, that's what they. So look, good. It's funny. Good. It's funny because there's this big fight between Colombia and Venezuela to define who are the true creators of arepas, right? Here's the thing. Colombia and Venezuela in culture, they are very similar. Yeah. I think, when I think about two countries that are very close to one another, Colombians and Venezuelans are very similar. The thing is that we have different accents.
Okay.
But other than that, our culture is very similar. So you had that. You had just like the round corn disc, and then you spread butter on top or cheese on top. That's how we eat it usually. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Venezuelans, they took that up a notch. So what they do, they split the arepa open and they fill it with beef or chicken or pork or a vegetarian option, and it's an amazingly delicious meal, and it's huge. So you can have like a full lunch just with one arepa. Of ours are more like a snack for snacking.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have that controversy. Who created? Well, who cares? Both options are great. Same thing when you think about, like, for example, pisco. I don't know if you've heard about pisco, the drink.
No.
So it's Peru's national drink.
Okay.
And they make their signature cocktail or national drink called pisco sour. But Chileans, they have pisco as well. Yeah. So they have a huge beef between them because they fight about the same thing. No, we are the creators of pisco. No, we are. Doesn't matter. As long as people have the chance to try them and get to know their culture a bit better through a drink or their food, I think is beautiful. And that's something that I love doing with these trips, because I truly find that the easiest way for you to get to know a culture, and maybe not the easiest, but the friendliest way, is through their food.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And it's fascinating because you see, because for example, you are in India, I'm in Colombia, for example. And then, so you would think, but their cuisine there is so much different than in India than here in Colombia, because they're far away. But when you think about it, when you dig deeper in the ingredients that each culture uses, there's so many ingredients that are shared throughout the world. Mm-hmm. So we are more similar than we think. So, for example, one of the most important ingredients that we use in Colombian cuisine is cumin. Yeah, mm-hmm. to make the foundation of a sauce that serves to create different dishes, and that's an Indian spice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's fascinating. Yeah, food and travel is something that I'm super passionate about, and to see the students living that and going through that experience and be aware of their privilege. Being in Canada, like students, we're privileged to live in a country like Canada. Yeah. So when they go to other countries and see other realities, it's powerful because they get to value what they do have. Mm-hmm. They see other realities and they get inspired to come up with solutions to help solve those problems in those other realities, right?
Yeah, that's so cool. That's awesome. Well, oh man, if you're listening to this, go get yourself some arepas.
Yes. So you spell it Arepas.
Yeah.
You can make them yourself. They're very easy to make, actually. You just need to buy a special flour. It comes in a yellow package. It's called, the brand is PAN, P-A-N, as in Nancy. P as in Peter, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy. And you just can make them yourself if you feel like it.
Hey, this is Kyle. Well done on your decision today to be great. Those are my kiddos in the background. Hey, if you want more of this kind of content, find me on social media. We'll keep the conversation going. You can hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, at StartWithWNTD. Again, at StartWithWNTD. We'll see you there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's pivot on that. And you kind of unpacked a lot of the food travels and tours that you do, which is awesome. But that's not the only thing that you do.
No.
Talk to us.
That's one of the things that I do.
Yeah. Talk to us about what else you're up to.
Okay, perfect. So that's one of the things that I do, which I'm very lucky, as I was mentioning before, to be able to do that. The other thing that I do, I created a learning initiative 3 years ago. It's called Orbit 5. Mm-hmm. And with that learning initiative, we are preparing international students and newcomers to transition into life in Canada.
Cool.
Yeah. So we do one-on-one sessions. We do workshops as well, and different work. What we are trying to do with this initiative is to change the mentality around career, because a lot of people, when they hear career-related topics, resume, cover letter, networking, interview, all that, people get scared of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're scared. People find that tedious and that. And I think is because we have heard the message so many times that job search is hard, that putting a resume together can be daunting, that going to an interview is terrifying. Yeah. So then when you have to go and do those things, you're scared because there's so many things that you have heard, but it could be the most beautiful process because you're forced to have incredible, honest conversations with yourself about who you are, what you want to do, where you want to go. Yeah. What challenges you face as well, and build a strategy around that so that you can walk paths that lead to your well-being and that keep your mental health on point as well. Yeah. So that's another thing that I do, with the work at Orbit 5. So when I created that, I was working at a career center at a college here in Toronto, and I had been invited to lead different projects for refugees and international students and newcomers. So I started developing a lot of skill on that, and I raised an interest in working with these populations. So I thought, well, I have the experience, I have the drive, I have the passion. So why don't I try to do something with this outside the college and try to start something on my own? I come from a very entrepreneurial family. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to do something like that. And I just started asking questions, asking around, and again, getting my feet wet in different aspects of entrepreneurship, meeting people, find about their journey, pretty much something similar to what we're doing right now, but with not in a podcast environment, more like informational interviews.
Yeah.
So we started doing that, and it's grown, and it's been a lot of learning because, again, I had the passion and the drive and the expertise, but I didn't know much about how to run a business. Yeah. Right. So then it's been a lot of learning. It's been a lot of tears too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a big risk that you take when you decide to do something on your own. And I believe that you can resonate this because you started this project, recently, and I'm sure that people are like, oh my God, are you serious? But it's so hard, but maybe the market is saturated, and then you just have to turn a deaf ear and do what you have to do. Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned it earlier, helping people just to get clear on what they want and their vision.
Yeah.
And once you have that, you got to hold it. And I've heard it said that it's really easy to come up with a vision, but it's really hard to hold it. And exactly what you're saying, because as soon as you have your vision and your goal and you might be clear on it, guess what? Everyone's going to come out of the woodwork and tell you why you're wrong or what you can't do or what you're not capable of.
Right.
And to your point, you got to get with people that will help you to stay clear and focus on your vision and not lose it. Right.
Yes, exactly. And although Orbit 5 works around career-related topics, it's more about life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And your life transition from another country now here into Canada. Yeah, because a lot of people think about work and school. And those are an addition, but we need to address the life transition first. So we have really deep conversations with our clients and our students regarding the prejudice that they grew up with, their biases, and how they need to leave that behind if they want to have a smooth integration into the country. Mm-hmm. So it's fascinating work that we've been doing. So what I did when I started creating this, I partnered up with a toy designer, and he has built a few crafts that we use in the workshop. So they spark critical thinking, and then you have the most fascinating discussions and conversations among the people who are taking the workshops and the one-on-one. So that's another thing that I do, helping these populations with their life transitions. Empowerment is a big thing because as a newcomer or as an international student, there's a lot of challenges that you face because it's a complete different reality. Culture shocks, lack of cultural fluency, so many things, and so many times people are just not ready, or they come with expectations that are so unrealistic because maybe recruiters or other people have gone to countries and tell them, hey, as soon as you land in Canada, jobs are going to be falling off the trees. And that's not the case at all. It's a lot of work, and we have the challenge because since we're not born here, we might come with a wealth of experience and education, but we don't have connections. As opposed to someone who is born here and they have the solid network for support. Here you have two challenges: not only adapting to the new environment, but second, build a network. Because without a network, you cannot do anything. The best opportunities in life and career come through a network. So that's the work that we do as well. Okay, so that's another thing. And then lastly, I do. I'm part of the faculty team at a college here in Toronto, where I teach career growth related courses and professional communications and leadership. And I was the course that I was going to be teaching at the university in China was going to be consumer behavior, which I was very excited about. So we'll see when that happens. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that I do, but everything is under the education umbrella.
Yeah, which is so awesome. Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of overlap where one of the things that you're involved in really kind of feeds into the next. Yeah, which is really, really cool. So you mentioned you grew up in an entrepreneurial family. So can you kind of walk us through like how you got from there to where you are today? What was that timeline for you? Did you always know that you wanted to help people in this way and be an entrepreneur, or kind of sketch that out for us? Yeah.
Right. It's interesting because it started with my dad, right? I remember when we were very young, my dad had a really good job at a pharmaceutical company, but then he started doing his own business, and he was importing and distributing medical equipment in Colombia. My dad didn't even go to college or university. I think he barely finished high school, but he's an avid reader. He's an excellent networker. So when he would go to interviews, he would beat the competition. Yeah. We're talking about like 40 years ago. I don't know. We beat in the competition. So he got really good jobs, but then he wanted to do something on his own. So he started that company, and he was with that company for about 15 years, I would say. And then small company, there's a lot of corruption in Colombia. So, for example, when he had to, go to bidding processes and that, the priority was given to the big companies and with people with friends in those institutions and whatnot. So then at some point it became unsustainable. So he stopped doing that. And then 15 years, I want to say 15, 16 years ago, he started a business with organic food. So have you heard of quinoa?
Quinoa,
the grain?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, quinoa. So quinoa, now the market is saturated with quinoa. Yeah, but 16 years ago, nobody knew it. Nobody knew anything about it. Yeah, so he managed to. So he discovered that, and he managed to transform it into different sub products. So he started doing that, and I remember I helped him open a market in Bogota, the capital city of Colombia, because he had his business in a different place. So it's all started with them. Now, my mom is a preschool teacher, yeah, but she was always very entrepreneurial. So she would always be in classes like knitting and picture framing and ceramics and all those things. So that she would do that, and she would sell her stuff here and there, get some extra income, right? And then 21 years ago, she had the chance to open a restaurant. Cool. Yeah. So she didn't know anything about the business, about the restaurant world. She was just an amazing cook, but she had never worked in the field. And she has managed to build a very successful business, thanks to her dedication and the level of service that she provides.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
That was my mom. That's on my mom's side. And then I have two brothers. One of my brothers is an architect by trade. But also always very entrepreneurial too, yeah? So always well, you know what? Yeah, I like architecture. I like working with these firms, but I have to be aware of my reality. I don't come from a rich family, yeah? So if I want to make it to the top of these firms, I need to be part of the blood or the immediate circle. And I don't want that. I don't want to work for anyone. So he started doing, he created his own small architecture firm. Mm. But 6 years ago, he got tired of that and he wanted to get into carpentry. He's an artist. He's always been an artist and very good with his hands. Mm-hmm. So we always knew, since he was a little kid, maybe 5 or 6, that he was going to do something with his hands. Yeah. And now that's what he does for a living. He moved from Bogota to the coast. Yeah. Of Colombia to have a more relaxed lifestyle, less stress, and that's what he's doing now. He creates custom-made, wood pieces and furniture, and he's living his dream now. So that's awesome. One of my brothers, and then my other brother, he went to school for advertising, mm-hmm. And then he worked in the field for, I'm going to say, maybe 7 years. With long hours, maybe 16 hours a day of work and whatnot. And then also he started exploring other options. And then now he is a fashion designer. So he created his own menswear line. That's so cool. He moved to another city, the fashion capital of Colombia, Medellin. And he's had his business for the past 6 years or so. And he's doing really well as well. He's doing really well.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, and only if you think the show deserves it, would you go over to Apple Podcasts and give us an honest, thoughtful 5-star review? This will really help us in our mission to equip the world for success.
Now, in my case, I didn't think too much about entrepreneurship. I did go to business school after high school. But, when you go to business school, they train you more to become an employee rather than an entrepreneur, right? Yeah. But then, after graduation, I had the random opportunity to teach English as a second language back in Colombia, and I loved it. And then, a year after, I started teaching privately. Yeah, so I guess that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey on a very low scale. But I was making the same money working 8 hours a week than what I would make at the language center working 10 hours a day. Yeah. So I'm okay. So there's the potential here.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah.
Yeah. No brainer. Right. So, I didn't see myself too much as an entrepreneur. Then I came here and I had to leave my process and learn and start from scratch and what have you. But then again, I think that, the entrepreneurial bug was always there. Yeah. And then 4 years ago, I decided to take the dive and do it. And again, it's not easy, but the best things in life never come easier, right?
No.
And I'm here and hoping to continue growing and hoping to continue supporting people throughout their life journeys.
Yeah, that's so cool. And it kind of really kind of flows out from your own experience, obviously being shaped in so many ways with the, all the entrepreneurial, dimensions that you experienced growing up, and then finally found for you in your own journey and your own story, an opportunity where you can really help serve others.
Yes.
You can, and it flows out from your experience from coming from Colombia to Canada. And now you're helping other folks that are making a similar journey to really help them be successful.
Correct.
So cool. Yeah.
Empowerment in motion, man. It has to be, we have to empower these populations because they relocate not because they want to steal anybody's job. No, they relocate because they want to contribute to the growth of already thriving societies. That's the agenda.
And they want opportunity.
The agenda of the international student. And they want opportunity. Yeah. That's the agenda of the international student. That's the agenda of the newcomer. In the case of a refugee, is different and it's more impactful because most of the time they're fleeing for their lives.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it kind of goes to that mindset. You're probably familiar, like abundance versus scarcity, right? Like, do we think that there's so little and everything is limited and someone's going to beat me to it? Or do we think that, hey, look, there's so much opportunity in the world. There's enough for all of us. And if we're all committed to helping others succeed, we're going to be successful ourselves. Right.
Right.
So that maybe gets a little bit, leads us in to this next question of like, so why, man? Like, why do you wake up every morning still giving yourself to the work that you do? Like, why? What's your greater purpose or that pulse within you that's really driving you to continue to give your life to this work?
My motivator is, as I mentioned before, to turn a negative experience in education into something very positive, either through my class that I teach at the college, or by taking chef students to another destination, or by doing the work that I do with Orbit 5 with the newcomers and international students. What I want to do on a daily basis is providing a very memorable and positive educational and life experience. That's my drive.
That's awesome. Yeah, so cool. And again, going back to your negative experience when you were young with the educational system and how you're helping to change that. That's so cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah.
So
very cool. So we'll pivot into the main segment here. And as you're looking back over the course of your journey, your story so far, you've had some successes, and you wouldn't have had those successes without doing things right. So this is a podcast about failure. But I think it's important as we're looking back, like let's look back on some of the things that you did right and share those with those who are listening. So for you, man, as you look back, what are the few of those things that kind of rise to the top of mind of like, you made a really good decision here, or this is a really right move here? What are those for you?
So one of the things that I did right was when I moved to this country was to leave my prejudice behind. Yeah, because when you grow up, and I'm going to talk about the South American context. Yeah, you don't have to be rich. You don't have to come from a rich family to grow up with your head filled with prejudice. Yeah. And then you come to Canada. Yeah, Canada or Toronto specifically, it's a beautiful place in the world because it's a microcosmos in one same city. Yeah. So then some people say, hey, these people from this culture are lazy. People from this culture smell. People, that is so many biases and stereotypes that you grow up with that you have to leave them behind when you come here. Otherwise, you won't be able to be part of that collective that are working together to help the society thrive.
Yeah.
So that is one thing, leave that bias behind. I think that's something that I did really well and that I learned through my very first job in Canada. Well, that was not fancy at all. I was working at a warehouse at a decoration store lifting carpets. That was my very first job in Canada, and it taught me so much. It taught me so many life lessons that I still hold dear to my heart, and it helped me leave that prejudice behind. Yeah. So that's one thing. And the other thing that I did right in this country was to build my network and cultivate it. Yeah, it's all about connections. And this is a message that I am always sending to the people that I talk to, and when I post content on LinkedIn, and when I have conversations with students, the power of connections. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we are experiencing this, you and I, as we speak right now. Exactly. Through a connection, an offline connection, and we are now able to have this amazing conversation. How did I get to see your content? Because you had an interview with Jordan Ogren that I followed on LinkedIn. I have had interaction with him on LinkedIn, and then I saw that, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to see that and connect. And then you send me a message, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the power of connection. So I think that's something that I've done really well, to be able to build a network, but most importantly, cultivate the network. Yes, yeah. Be always present. Yeah. Yep. Not only asking, but also offering and giving, offering value, and what can I do for you? Say yes. Things like that. So I think those two things are some of the things that I did right when I moved to this country.
Yeah, that's so good. Going back to your first point about leaving the prejudice behind, it's, when we grew up in a certain area, everyone looks like us, talks like us, all that kind of stuff. And we move someplace different and everyone looks different, right? Yeah. That can be really tough. And so if we're in the business of people and building relationships with everybody, you want to be successful in life, you're going to deal with people, and the better that you can have those relationships and work with others. But guess what? It's likely that those people that are going to that you're going to help to make successful, and vice versa, probably don't look like you, probably don't talk like you, right? And so it's a matter of realizing and respecting. Hey, everyone has different views and opinions and beliefs, and that's great. But not letting yours get in a way and a barrier from being able to build successful relationships with others.
Absolutely,
and so important.
Yeah, and the thing is that prejudice prevents you from building relationships with people who can potentially be amazing and bring a lot of value to your life. Now, when I go back to my days growing up in Colombia, there's a lot of social stratification there. So social classes are very predominant in Colombia. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when I was in high school and university, and you met someone new, what was the first question that you would ask that person?
What's that?
Where do you go for school? Yeah. And based on their answer, it would take you a millisecond to decide if you wanted to establish a relationship with that person or not. And that's sad. It's sad. Then the second question is, okay, so if you like the school, if it's one of the cool schools, then okay, and now where do you live? Same thing, the neighborhood, right? What kind of car do you drive? And people make decisions based on those factors. And they don't give themselves the chance to get to know other individuals that have different realities that can really bring a lot of value and can teach you incredible life lessons. Yeah. So that's something that I grew up with. But when I came here, it was a completely different reality. I'm like, that's not me anymore. Right? I have to evolve from that. And it's beautiful. And you know what's funny? Kyle? So last year, I always go to Colombia in the holidays to see my family. And I remember 2 years ago, my brother looked at me and he's like, you don't look like a local anymore. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? And he's like, yeah, man, because you're so relaxed. You look so relaxed. You look so calm. You look like you're having such a good time. And here we are all stressed out. Yeah. And that resonated. And I think it's because I have opened myself to really embrace people from all walks of life, to try to see the value in every single person that I come across with. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
That's really interesting. You don't look like a loco anymore.
Yeah, that's what she was. I'm like, well, okay.
And in a sense, you're wearing that as a badge of honor. You're saying like that's because I've become better and I've grown as a person. Yeah.
I took it as a compliment, actually. Not that I'm ashamed of being Colombian. I love my country. I love my roots. Sure. I wear like Colombian bracelets on a daily basis and whatnot. But it's that thing from my upbringing, and I'm not blaming my parents. I'm blaming the entire societal model, school, TV, media, everything. And just evolve from that and become another person. And it's been fascinating, right? And it's brought a lot of great friendships, collaborations with people who look so different from me at first glance and speak so differently. But when you dig deeper, we are so so more similar than we think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're flesh and blood at the end of the day. Right. And
exactly.
And how much you can learn from other people that are different from you in those other regards, which is awesome.
Right.
All right. I want to know who's next. Who do you want to hear on what not to do? Which entrepreneur, which leader, which public figure in your network do you want to hear on the show? Maybe it's you. Maybe you need to be here. So let's connect me with whomever, and we'll sit down for coffee, a beer, or even a cigar, and together equip the world for success.
And then on the second thing, as far as a network, I've heard it said that your network is your net worth, right? Mm-hmm. Your network is your net worth.
Agreed.
And like you said, like you know, if you're in the business of meeting other people and seeing how you can help them, and then they're interested and wanting to help you, you're in it for each other's success. It's just amazing the opportunities that can come your way, even as you help to give other people opportunity. And so if folks are listening to this, I mean, that's a huge takeaway right there. If you're not actively seeking to try to build and, like you said, cultivate your network, mm-hmm. then you're probably not growing in life. And
you're not.
You're probably wondering where's my opportunity? Well, go find it. Go
find it.
Yeah. Build relationships. Go see how you can serve them, how you can help them. And guess what? You're going to have opportunities come your way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the best opportunities in terms of career, if we talk about career, comes through your network.
Yeah.
Then that's why, for example, so many newcomers and immigrants get frustrated because they just rely on their resume and sending a bunch of applications online, and they never hear anything back from the employer, not because they have bad resumes, but because their resumes never get to touch human hands. That's the challenge. Okay. So you have two challenges. Yeah. You're new to the country. And on top of that, you have to make sure that you place that document or your LinkedIn profile into someone's hands so that you get noticed. Right. So it's fascinating, this conversation about networking, because in my personal case, say in 14 years, if I've held 10 different positions, 90% of them were through a network, a referral. One of them I applied online when I used to work at an insurance company once, and I didn't like the job. But the other things, the career developer at the college, the teaching opportunities at the college, all that, the culinary tourism, through a network, through a referral. And then once you get that referral, once you get that push from your network, it's up to you to see what gaps do you find through the conversation that we were having with the person, and see how your skill and your experience can help them fill that gap and address those pain points, right? It's fascinating. It's fascinating, the power of networking and connections.
Yeah, and it's truly rewarding. Exactly what you said.
It's very rewarding.
You're in it for one another, and it's just awesome. So again, if you're not networking, start. If you are networking, make sure that you're cultivating that network and continuing to expand it.
And you know what? And so it also, sorry for interrupting. It's also it's interesting because of course, like for some people, it's not their cup of tea to go to an event or to talk to people face to face. Yeah, right. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what persona you have, because now with technology, we have the chance to connect with people online and offline as well.
That's right.
So you could connect with people online through LinkedIn, and people still are not making the most of this platform. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's still so much opportunity on LinkedIn for you to connect with people if you are more of an introvert, or, like you don't want to go out there and put your face out there, but you can start building relationships offline. And then once you build the confidence and you feel more comfortable, then you can take it one step further and meet those people on offline.
Yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. That's well said. And the other side of that too is this, like, let's say you're an introvert and you don't love trying to go out and meet people. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Maybe you need to grow, right? And maybe networking and meeting people isn't at odds with being an introvert. Like you said, you just need to find the way to do it to be able to continue to cultivate relationships, build them, establish them, and see how you can be in service to others. Because otherwise, you're pretty much living in a rock your whole life, and and we want to be productive members of society and trying to build a wonderful community, et cetera. So don't be afraid if it challenges you and if it makes you grow. Because if you're not growing, you're dying, right?
Yeah, and you can, and it's okay if you make mistakes at the beginning, right? That's why you're here. That's why you're here to learn and it's trial and error as well. Or you can reach out to someone like me or other amazing professionals on LinkedIn that will be more than happy to help you face those fears of connecting with other people, so that you can make better choices for the progression of your life and the progression of your career as well.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, you wouldn't be here if you did everything right in life, right?
Yeah.
So as you kind of look back, same thing, not successes, David, what are some of the failures that kind of rise to top, that stand out above, we were joking, I think, in our messages about, recording multiple episodes, from all the failures. And isn't that true for all of us? Like, we all look back and be like, yeah, I could fill up volumes of all the mistakes I've made. But for you, as you kind of look back, what's one, two, maybe three things that kind of rise to the top of mind? And when you look back in your story, your career, and your journey, that you would readily spare people the pain of making those same mistakes.
Mm-hmm. So I experienced failure from a very early age. Mm-hmm. Within the educational system, as I was mentioning before, I failed miserably in that system, right? I came from being among the top 5 students in elementary school to being at the bottom 5 consistently in secondary school. Yeah. Once my creativity was taken away and I was, being faced with algebra, trigonometry, calculus, that was it for me. Yeah. So that was my first, my failure. Then it didn't stop there. One thing that I failed really, really bad as well was the decision of what I wanted to do after high school. I was so lost. I was feeling so little. I was feeling so demotivated. I was feeling so in a way that I was not considering myself as a smart person, that I didn't know what to do, So I did enroll in a business program just because my dad had a business. That was the only reason. But I remember this is the year 1998, 2000, So back in the day, there's no internet yet. So how would you choose your program? You would actually go to the universities and get physical brochures. And then go through them. And I remember going through those brochures, right? And I would see statistics, costs, accounting, financial, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my God, like there's zero excitement, excitement. But again, I decided to enroll in that program. And it was not the smartest decision, to be honest. It was not good because it was a program that was not aligned with what I wanted to do. So I failed throughout the 5 years where I was again being educated, probably six courses that I had to retake. So I failed really, really bad in that. So that's when it comes to education. And then also I failed in one of my initial entrepreneurial ventures back in Colombia. I wanted to help my dad to expand the market of the organic food. And we opened a shop in an area in the city that was very busy. But we didn't do any market research. We didn't do any assessments. We didn't do any evaluations. We just thought, that shop, that space is open for renting. And there's a lot of people walking by, let's do it. That was all the study that we did. It failed really bad. Like 3 months later, we had to close it down.
Oh man.
So that taught me many, many lessons as well. And then another thing, coming back to education, but now within the Canadian context, when I arrived here, I enrolled in a certificate of strategic marketing. And we had to, the program had a co-op component, and I was not strategic with my choices. I didn't know better. I didn't know what I know today, right? So I didn't know better. Yeah. So I applied to whatever 4 random places that the school gave me access to through a database. And some of those places were banks. If you ask me now, why do you apply to those places? I'm like, I don't know, Kyle. I don't know why in the world I applied to work at a bank. Where that's completely opposite of the things that I like doing, But I did apply to a few banks, and then I remember the other students were worried because they were not getting calls after the interviews. People were worried about their placements. So I started getting worried. I started getting anxious. So I go to the first interview at a bank, and they give me the offer, and I just took it because I was scared that I was not going to get anything else. Well, 3 weeks into the training, I had to quit because it was like they were speaking to me in a completely different language. It didn't resonate. I was bored. So I had to quit. And that created a conflict because first, that space could have been used by another student with interest more aligned in the banking industry. It jeopardizes the relationship between the employer and the college as well. So it was and then I had to find another thing on my own. So that's another way that I failed. But again, like with failure comes growth and learning. So every time I failed, I learned incredible life lessons. Yeah,
that's so good. So I've been taking notes and jotting down some stuff. So kind of going back to the first one, you said your first failure was, and actually it kind of reminds me of my story a little bit, like where I was a rock star in elementary school, and then I got to middle school, and in some ways I just wasn't challenged and I wasn't interested. And I wasn't, aside from being told I needed to do my homework, all that kind of stuff, I wasn't taught to be interested or taught, that kind of stuff. And like you said, the creative component was kind of taken away. And you kind of force inside this box and then you just kind of lose interest, right? But so for you, how would you phrase that, what not to do way if you were to, let's say there was, an elementary school or a middle school, kid that was running around and maybe came to some kind of, conference or meeting or something like that. And you would go up to him and say, hey, hey buddy, don't do this. What would you say to that middle school kid?
You would say to them, hey, buddy, do not feel inferior. Do not feel less worthy if you are struggling with school at the moment.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I would tell them. Yeah.
And that's so important because they might feel weird, like if they've checked out, if they've suddenly lost interest, the creative part was taken away, and now their grades are suffering. You're kind of keying in on something that's really important where that student that has a great capacity and potential, but is not being given the right avenues for it, might suddenly now feel like they have no capacity, no potential.
Absolutely. Another thing that I would tell them, do not compare yourself to the other students.
Yep.
Because I did that a lot. Because I remember there was a group of students in school, at school, right? And they were the nerds. Yeah. The nerds. now, as an adult, then again, as an adult, you start reflecting about your journey, and then I'm like, oh my God, like I wish I had built stronger relationships or friendships with that group of people because they are amazing, and they were amazing at what they did, but because they fit in within the educational model that was delivered to us, they did amazingly well. They did amazingly well. All teachers had nothing but great words of praise for them. Yeah. So then you see yourself, oh my God, like these guys are going to the math Olympiads in Japan. Yeah. And I'm here failing my test because I don't know how to solve an equation. Yeah. I'm stupid. I'm not worth it. Yeah. You cannot compare.
Yeah.
I don't know. I cannot be certain about this, but probably they are not as good in languages or humanities as I am. Everybody has different intelligences. Yeah. So do not compare. If you are at school, do not compare yourself to anybody. Just focus on your journey. Collaborate with others for sure. Empower others. Yeah. Find avenues to collaborate, but do not compare your journey with anybody else.
Well, it is one of my main goals to give you more in use value than what I take from you in cash value. And so, man, I love that this podcast is for free. And I really hope that you are finding just incredible value. Who knows, maybe in one of these episodes, you'll take an idea that will be worth $1 million to you. And that's so awesome. If you believe in this and what we're doing here and you'd like to give, you can go to patreon.com/whatnotttodo and you can give according to your heart's desire. But seriously, every little bit helps in our mission to equip the world for success. Thank you so much.
And really, I mean, that's something that adults need to hear, right? Because all of life is learning, all of life is education. Right. And let's say someone is either in the career or they're going to kind of break off and try to build a business or something, the temptation to always be comparing to see how far behind we are. It's kind of also that social media culture, like how many likes did I get, how many shares did I get, like all that kind of stuff. And what happens when we start focusing on those things is what are we not focusing on? We're not focusing on our vision. We're not focusing on our goals. We're not focusing and we're forgetting on the capacity that we have, the momentum that we have, the ability that we have to be able to serve others. And that's you kind of can work yourself into this vicious circle and start to kind of regress in all things in life, business and personal and whatever it might be, if we're constantly comparing ourselves. So that's for certain that a middle schooler needs to hear, but man, I need to hear that. I think we all need to hear that. Right. Don't compare yourself. Focus on your vision, your goals, and go hard after it.
There you go. Yes.
That's awesome. And then another thing you said was, and it kind of tied with two things that you said was kind of that career direction, wanting to be clear on what you wanted. And then later you talked about taking the banking gig, which just was not a good fit. And so there's a couple of different things there. One thing I wrote down was don't take the first offer, and that's something I've actually done in my life before. Where it's like, as you're experiencing it, it's really tempting to take the first offer because it might be the only one, rather than being really clear on what you want in life, where you want to go, what that next step is for you, and then position yourself and wait for the right opportunity, not taking the wrong one just because you think you really need it. Do you mind? Would you say it? Would you say it in the same way, or how would you talk about that?
So, for example, in my case, it's interesting what you mentioned about taking the first offer, right? In that case, it was a very bad thing for me to do because it was something that was not aligned with what I wanted. Right. Now, what students, what you shouldn't do is to take your placement process, if you are a student in post-secondary, to take your placement process lightly. You have to be very strategic. And you have to, if the college is giving you a database of potential employers where you can work at, you have to have a deep look at that list and see what are the places where you see yourself at contributing. Because if you think about it, when you go to college or university and the program has a co-op or a placement component, that is the climax of the program because it's where you are going to apply the knowledge that you have acquired, or maybe in some instances you won't apply anything because the real world is completely different, but is where you learn, is about the real world, is where you have the chance to start making valuable connections in that industry of your interest, where you start strategizing about creating opportunities for yourself and what have you. So you have to be very strategic. So if you are strategic and you pick 4 places that really speak to you, it does not matter if you take the first offer because all of them are aligned. If you are applying to 4 places, it's because all of those 4 places have potential for you to grow and are aligned with your vision and with your interests. Now, but hopefully, like if say, for example, you apply to 4 places and then they all interview you and then you get very good feedback and then you need to make a decision, then you don't necessarily pick the first offer, but the one that speaks to you the most, correct?
Yeah, that's good. So maybe, so instead of saying it like don't just take the first offer, exactly like you said, don't pursue opportunity that doesn't align with your vision or your goals. Yeah, that's perfect. That's awesome. And again, I mean, it's really cool because you're drawing from your experience and helping, folks transition from coming in from a different country. But man, I mean, what high school student wouldn't really value hearing this, or what adult that maybe has been in a career for 10, 15, 20 years, but looking to maybe break off and do something else, like, or, work somewhere else or whatever it might be. I mean, we all, again, very kind of a life principle here where don't be pursuing opportunity that doesn't align with your vision or your goals in life. And if your vision has changed, maybe you find yourself in that place right now where it's saying like, hey, what I'm doing right now, my current opportunity does not align with where I want to go. Great. Right. That's the first process to be aware. And now let's see where you want to go. And now let's find opportunities to get there. That's really cool.
And the information overlaps. So exactly. I talk about students because they are my niche. But this information can overlap and can be valued by different people. Yesterday, for example, I posted an article on LinkedIn with the title, "Why Are Students Scared of Job Interviews?" And I wrote it down and I posted it. And it was great because some of the comments that I got from people where that this is great. I understand that this is a message catered for students, but it resonates with the rest of us as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when it comes to life, career, of course, my message is catered to students, but hopefully it impacts other folks as well.
Yeah. And it's likely that a lot of the work that we do, regardless of your industry, might have broader life applications if we pay attention to them, right?
Correct.
Which is cool. So then the last thing that you talked about was, hopping into the business with your dad and trying to get it going. And what would you say, how would you phrase it in such a way to say, like, don't do this, the way that you guys went about, that starting that business?
Do not make uninformed business decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't make
study the market, don't take those decisions lightly.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's an investment of time, of money, and everything. Yeah. If you fail, you learn. But if you can avoid that, why not, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's, if you need to, reaching up and reaching out, that actually kind of gets at the heart of the podcast here, right? That folks that, hey, maybe they've got greater goals, ambitions, whether it's to be an entrepreneur or a leader or public figure in some capacity, they can learn from folks that they might not otherwise have ever met, like yourself, right? And they can be able to apply, so they don't have to continue in life and making uninformed decisions. They can be informed because all the information, all the experience, it's there if you just look for it. If you're there, it's there if you just reach out for it.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, cool. So if you're sitting down, with coffee for someone that, really said, hey, David, I could see myself doing what you do someday, assuming that you don't want him to, suffer, needlessly, how might you counsel him to go about, doing things differently to help avoid some mistakes that you made? Or, how would you counsel younger David to go about doing things differently if you were given the chance to do things differently?
Right. I would ask younger David a lot of questions about himself, about what moves him, about what scares him.
Yeah.
And about not only about the future, but about the present as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Have a full understanding of what are the different factors that are impacting younger David's humanity, and pick cues from there and there to expand a conversation for both of us to explore paths that are in tune with what younger David was. Yeah. So, for example, younger David always knew that he liked languages. Yeah. But younger David never saw that as a career because back in the day, it was like I would have been, younger David would have been judged by his friends. What are you studying, like modern languages or linguistics? Why? Mm-hmm. You have to study business, law, or engineering. That's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I would have the conversation with younger David to have a better understanding of the entire spectrum, and find avenues that are in tune with what he wants.
Yeah, it reminds me of that saying, know thyself, right? Where we want to be self-aware. And that's kind of what you're saying from an earlier age, the more that we can help just to kind of zoom out from ourselves and try to be able to objectively assess things like who we are, what are we good at, what do we enjoy, what are our economic options that we could go and be able to provide a good value and service to the world. Correct. And that's awesome. That's really helpful. As far as thinking back, even how we would maybe talk to ourselves, or at least help someone younger getting started or wherever they might be at, is that first process of knowing thyself, like be self-aware and know what you have to offer to the world and what your potential, avenues are to do that.
Yeah. And you know what, now that you mentioned self-awareness, self-awareness is a term that is being used a lot lately. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like networking. These are terms that everybody's using, but they are so important. So I don't think that they are becoming cliches, at least not in the near future, because they're so important. Like you need to be self-aware.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If not, then if you're not self-aware, then you're just gonna walk through life without a north. Yeah. So
on an earlier episode, I was talking with a guy that talked about how it's important to be self-aware because we, for instance, if we're not self-aware of who we are and how we present ourselves, we could walk into a room of people and our personalities can completely bulldoze that room. Flatten it, and we might not mean to do that, but because we're not aware of who we are and how we go about doing things, we could really damage people a lot more than we actually ever meant to. I'm assuming we don't want to hurt them at all, right? But it's important, or even to know the strengths that we bring to the table, right? So how can we use those things in service and for others by providing a good product or value, or whatever it might be. So that's a good, man. Know thyself and know thy options, right?
Yes.
Well, I'm really excited to share with you that What Not to Do has been gaining traction and momentum and experiencing some early wins, which is super exciting, and reminded me this show is about you, it's for you, and I couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much. If you're part of a company, if you own a company, and you think your message would be really, really relevant and valuable to the folks that are part of this community, entrepreneurs, leaders, public figures, and those aspiring as such, reach out to me. My contact info is in the show notes, and we can sit down and consider what it would look like to partner together in equipping the world for success.
Well, okay, cool. So we're going to move into the last kind of few gauntlet of questions here. And some of these are some of my favorites. We are all... we're all inescapably influenced in life. I mean, there's so many things that contribute to our growth and who we turn out to be. It's kind of like being in a garden, right? We have this, if you're going to be a rose and you have this seed of potential, the seed of a promise that you're going to be a rose is wrapped up in that seed, right? That potential is wrapped up in the seed. It gets planted, and then assuming it gets the right proportions of sunlight and water and is kept from getting chopped down, it's going to grow up into this beautiful rose. I think human life is like that, where we have this potential that's wrapped up inside of us from birth. And depending on our environments, we can either grow or we can, or we might die, Mm-hmm. And people play a huge part in that, as far as part of that environment that shapes us, that influences us. And so I'm curious, man, for you and your journey, and it's probably several people, but who kind of comes to the top of the mind as far as having the most impact in your formation as to who you are today, in such a way that you'd be like, I would not be the same person without this person, who is that for you, David?
I have to go to my mom, man.
Yeah.
My mom. Yeah. Because my mom, we're three brothers. Yeah. And my parents got divorced when we were very young. I think I was 9. So then she was in charge of raising 3 kids pretty much by herself. Mm-hmm. And she always delivered. She never, her love towards us never decreased. Her passion towards raising us never decreased, never got impacted because of the situation. Mm-hmm. She kind of, quote unquote, sacrificed her own life to provide for us. So she's been an inspiration. And then after, seeing how she has been able to manage her restaurant and being able to succeed and being in operations for 21 years, which is, this year is going to be 22, which is so rare in the restaurant industry.
Yeah. It's tough
to see restaurants. They open, they close after 3 years, 4 or 5 years. Right. So for me to see that her discipline, her dedication, the level of service that she provides to her guests is mesmerizing. Yeah. So, and her kindness too. Yeah. So I think that's something that really transcended, and I live my life with a kind heart, man, because there's so much stigma. There's so many issues in the world. We live in a society of fear. So I like going through life with kindness and see how can I make a person feel better about themselves and their journey and whatnot. And that's my mom. That's what my mom taught me. So she's the biggest influence for sure.
That's so cool. Yeah. Wow. What a wonderful way to be formed, All right. So I'm not looking for
with challenges, of course, right?
For sure.
We are a dysfunctional family as well. And it's great. I think all families are highly dysfunctional. Mine is super dysfunctional, but we love each other and we make it work. So it's good. Yeah.
We always joke around and say that we put the fun in dysfunctional. So
yeah. There you go.
So I'm not looking for the best advice, but David, what's some of the worst advice you've either ever heard or that you hear kind of floating around these days, kind of in such a way that, man, it just makes you cringe and you want to go wring the neck of the person that's given it? What's some of the worst advice you hear?
You have to go to university as soon as you finish high school. Doesn't matter that you don't know what to do. You have to do it because you need a degree. That's the worst advice. So if I was given the chance to do something differently after high school, I would, if I could turn back time, I would take a gap year. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would not enroll in the business program. Yeah. I would take a gap year. I would travel. I would take tons of entry-level jobs. I would taste one job here, taste another thing here, taste away to make a more impactful and a better informed decision of what I wanted to do after high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I think, like I was speaking with a lady the other day. Yeah. Her son is a chef, is a cook. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then she told me, you know what, David, like when my son finished high school and he wanted to go to chef school, I said to him, no, you have to go to university. What are you talking about, chef? You want to starve to that or what? So you have to go to university. She forced him to go to university. Yeah. Because she was not thinking about him. She was thinking about her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so he finished his degree and everything. But you know what was the first thing that he did after graduation? He enrolled in chef school. Yeah. Now he had saved his money, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't depend on his parents anymore. Right. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want now. Mm-hmm. So, and he enrolled in chef school and now he's a chef and he's doing what he is passionate about. Yeah. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So that thing, you must go to university as soon as you finish high school. For some kids, like it works perfectly. Yes. I'm not going to say no, but it has to be an informed decision. Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes back to being clear on what you want, right? I mean, if you don't know what you want, like you said, take some time off and figure out what that is. Right. Don't just lock yourself into $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 of debt, when you don't really know what you want to do. And now you're stuck. Now you have to go get a job somewhere just to try to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. And that can, it can create this vicious cycle that is really hard to get out of later in life.
It's very hard to get out of that dark place. Yeah.
Right. And exactly. I mean, so you're in the college system. So you're in the university system. So you're not telling folks, hey, the university is bad, college is bad. You're saying just be clear on what you want before you get into it. And don't just assume that you have to follow this path. Otherwise you're a failure in life.
Yeah. I love education. I love working in education. I'm very critical of the educational system. Nevertheless, but I love working in education because again, it gives me the chance to provide students with opportunities that I did not get. So for them, gain clarity about who they are and what they want to do from the initial stages. Yeah,
that's so good.
But nobody has to go through that system, man. That's reality.
Yeah, that's good. Know your options, right?
Not everybody. Yeah.
All right, so. Last but not least, one of my favorite questions, David, it's rush hour in Toronto. It's rush hour in Green Bay. It's rush hour in every major city in the world. Billions of people are caught in a traffic jam, trying to get home. And they're listening to this podcast, what not to do. It's probably your episode, right? They listen to David Mendoza here, and wouldn't you know it, they look out of their window and they see David's billboard. What is that message, David, that you want the world to see?
Okay, so I'm going to cheat here a little bit, right? Because I'm going to use a quote by somebody else, yeah? Mm-hmm. But it's my favorite quote of all time, man. So in that billboard, I would say, that billboard will say, no one is you, and that is your power. And that is a quote by Dave Grohl, the lead, the front man from Foo Fighters. Yeah, I love it because it comes from an artist. Yeah. I love it because it comes from someone who that people can relate to. Yeah. And I love it because it has so much truth in it. Nobody's you and that is your power. Every single person is a different universe. Every single person is packed with gifts and talents that other people don't have. It all comes down of how I use my gifts and you use your gifts and the rest of the population use their gifts so that we can coexist and contribute to the growth of our societies. Yeah. So no one is you and that is your power. You are unique in your own sense.
That's so good. Yeah. So don't be afraid of being you. right? Go and leave shit to the world and service to others.
Embrace yourself, embrace yourself, embrace your journey, embrace the failure, embrace every single thing that life has thrown at you, either positive or negative, because you grow from all experiences, and even you grow more from negative experiences. Yeah. So for example, the class that I teach at the college currently, it's a career and life transitions class, and my students are students that face mental health challenges and addictions and addiction recovery processes and homelessness and incarceration and all sort of struggles they have been through. Yeah. And I talk about this quote a lot because when they have gone through that struggle, they become resilient. They build a different skill that other people haven't built because they don't have the lived experiences. Yeah. The only thing is that they have to develop confidence to fight the stigma, because there's stigma around mental health. There's stigma about around addiction. There's stigma around homelessness. Yeah. But it's fascinating, Kyle, because when you are in that classroom, like they are the most engaged students because they're giving themselves a second chance. Yeah. So when I see that you're giving yourself a second chance. I don't care what your story is. I don't care that you did this or that you face this. If you're here, I'm here to support you 200%. Yeah. So it's empowering them through their uniqueness. And I think LinkedIn is a great platform for people, for example, with mental health challenges.
Yeah.
Because nobody's exempted from experiencing them at some point in their lives. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they cannot talk about this in a resume, but they can tell their life story and how they've grown and how they have the capacity to, to live with those challenges. Yeah. And still thrive and contribute. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not over till it's over, right? It's not over till it's over.
Absolutely.
No matter where you are in life, do not give up, and especially don't give up on yourself.
Right.
It's not over till it's over.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And reach out to support systems. Yeah. So for example, within the college environment, there's so many support systems in place that students don't even know about, and they don't use. And it's a shame because there's counselors, there's tutors, there's so many folks out there whose job is just to see the students succeed. That's it. No judgment, no nothing. Yeah. So, and again, nobody's exempted from experiencing mental health or different challenges throughout their lives. And if you do, you have to talk about it. Yeah. You have to, especially, for example, now, since we are in North America, and then this is a conversation that has emerged more and more throughout the years, we can talk about that, right? But for example, the students that I work with that are international and come from countries, for example, from South America or Southeast Asia or the Middle East, where these topics are taboo, yeah, it's a conversation that we need to have with them so that they make their mental health a priority.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be very challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said. All right. So bonus round here, David. What are 3 books that you think people need to have on their bookshelves? Go.
All right. So first one, Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire. He was a Brazilian educator. And I love it because it talks about society and how most members of our societies are oppressed, and how charities are, quote unquote, are just a way to hide the realities that the oppressed face, and how these charities and these things make people with a lot of money feel better when the contributions are not as impactful as they think they are. Yeah. So I think that's a great book for anybody who is into social work related topics. This is actually a book that everybody in Brazil has to read when they are at university. I found out about that recently. A Brazilian friend of mine told me that. So that's one. The other one is the E-Myth Revised by Michael E. Gerber. And I love it because it talks about, for someone who is thinking about venturing into the small business context, is a great one to have. And it gives real life examples and stories and whatnot. So I like that one a lot. I read that last year. And also for someone who is thinking about freelancing and doing independent work and leave the 9-to-5 scheme for a bit or put it aside for a bit, there's another book called Working the Gig Economy by Thomas Oppong. And pretty much talks about how to thrive and succeed when you decide to become your own boss and work for yourself. So I would recommend those 3.
That's awesome. Well, we will have those in the show notes. So people that are inspired by you, they want to think more like you, and they want to get these books on their bookshelves, they can start in that process too. And also, speaking of which, if people wanted to get in touch with you, David, what's the best way to do it?
LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a great way to get in touch with me, or email. If you want to get in touch, you don't need to be a student, to be honest. You can be anyone. Yeah. Like going through a life transition, or just thinking about, or who want to do some work to advance in their career and walk paths that lead to happiness and well-being. Shoot me an email at connect@orbit5.ca. So Orbit, ORBIT, then the number 5.ca.
Awesome. And I'll have that in the show notes too.
Amazing.
Well, David, this has been so awesome, man. I don't know about you. I've had a blast, and I've really
me too,
a conversation together. It's been helpful for me, and it's just, again, I love this. I'm floored that you're in Toronto. I'm in Green Bay. We're nations apart, and yet we're connecting. Yeah. We're syncing. We're like-minded in so many ways, and it's so awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show today, and I hope our listeners have been equally helped. If you guys want to connect with David, go to the show notes, find his contact. Maybe you can do business with him. Maybe you can go on a culinary tour with him.
There you go.
Or learn from him. Get the books that he's recommending, and don't wait. Don't give up on you. It's not over till it's over. That's awesome.
There you go. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your podcast. Yeah, and I feel extra fortunate because I am the first one who who gets to do it online. So thank you very much. I had an amazing time. I wish you the best success with this podcast. Amazing conversation. This made my day. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias.
Likewise, David. Yes, muchas gracias. Get yourself some arepas if you're listening.
There you go. Yeah, hit me up if you want to learn how to make them as well.
Awesome. All right, take care, David.
Thank you. Bye, Kyle. Take care.
What a great conversation with David Mendoza. And how about that quote from Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters? No one is you, and that is your power. No one is you, and that is your power. That's so awesome. And that actually pulls us right into our recap here of what not to do here with David. First, he said, don't feel inferior. Don't feel inferior. For instance, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. And so if you excel in one area, but not in another, don't think that makes you inferior across the board, right? Don't let that introduce this particular narrative that you're not good enough, you're not capable, because you're not good in everything, therefore you're good in nothing, right? That'd be completely wrong, completely backwards. Don't feel inferior. Know your strengths, lean into them, be aware of your weaknesses, yes, and where it makes sense, go ahead and work on those and fortify those, but do not feel inferior. No one is you, and that is your power, right? Secondly, don't compare yourself to others. He had mentioned this in context with students that were transitioning from one country to Canada. And you can imagine just comparing yourself to others that are studying, excelling, new to a culture, and that can just be, challenging across the board on several different areas. But adults need to hear this. We need to hear this, right? At any stage of our lives, we need to hear this. Don't compare yourself to others, right? Know what you want, go after it, and have on those blinders, like a horse would have that keeps him from seeing things in his peripheral vision. Have on the blinders and stay focused. Don't look around. Don't have your head on a swivel. Don't compare yourself to others. Be confident in who you are and go after your goals. And this leads us right into this last thing that he told us not to do. He said this: do not pursue opportunity that doesn't align with your purpose. Do not pursue opportunity that doesn't align with your purpose. And man, I think this is one of the biggest things in life. I mean, this is something I struggled in my life for such a long time. is not understanding what I wanted in life. Maybe you feel that way. Maybe you're not clear on what you want out of life. And that's your first mission. Get clear on what you want. Get clear on what your purpose is and what you're going after. Where do you want to be in 30, 40, 50 years from now? Right? When was the last time you thought about that? When was the last time you thought about where your great-great-grandchildren would be and how you live your life and the choices you make would set them up for success or for failure? Right? So get clear on your purpose, get clear on what you want. Start with the end in mind and reverse engineer that bad boy and go from there. When you get clear on that, then don't just take any opportunity that comes along, right? And this was a particular failure that David had made. Took the first offer on the table, right? And it wasn't the right one. Why? Because it did not align with his purpose. And I think sometimes we can maybe relate to David. Maybe we're not clear on what we really want, or maybe we are, but we ignore it, we lose sight of it, and we just take an opportunity because we feel like we need it, like it's a quick fix, like it's a Band-Aid. But man, that can really set us back a long ways and maybe ultimately do more damage than good. And so don't take that quick temptation. Be patient, wait, and work towards an opportunity that really aligns with your purpose. If you find yourself in a position right now that you're not happy in, get clear on your purpose. And if you are clear on your purpose, then start to work towards finding an opportunity that aligns with that purpose. And maybe that means going all in where you're at, right? Have you committed to that? Are you all into where you're at? Maybe you're not happy, but maybe it's because you're not really all in where you're at. And maybe that role could align with your purpose, but you're not giving it a chance. So that's also something to consider. But do not pursue opportunity that does not align with your purpose. And this is true for work, career, spouse, relationships, friendships, all across the board. Get really clear on that and use that to filter out all your decisions, right? Well, this has been awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening. I've been getting some really cool notes my way about people that have been really impacted by the show, mentoring others, connecting with others, doing business with others, lives being changed, course of direction. I mean, that just, man, it means so much to me to hear that. I've shared this before, but I make it my aim to give more in use value than I take in cash value. So for instance, there's really three folks that I'm surrounded by here on this podcast. It's the guests that I have on, it's the listeners, you guys that are listening, and it's sponsors, right? People that believe in this work and they want to get their message in front of that. And so when it comes to guests, I want to give more to the guests than what I'm taking from them. What I'm taking from them is their time, right? They're giving up their time to come here. And what I hope I'm giving them is a platform to share their story, to share their failures, to really help others. And I think that's so valuable to them. And that's the feedback I've been getting from them. For listeners, I'm brokering a conversation of folks that are willing to pass down these vital life lessons, and wherever you might be at in your journey, you get to learn from them, people that you would have maybe never either met or even heard of in your life before. And that's super awesome. And then for sponsors, creating a really valuable platform where they can align their message to really relevant potential clients and customers. And that's so exciting to me, more than what they're giving me in advertising dollars. And so I would love to find more guests that would really enjoy these kind of conversations. I would love to have more listeners. Share this podcast with others that you think would really enjoy it. And I would love to have more sponsors, folks that really believe in what is going on here, what not to do, believe in this mission, and they want to give to it, right? And they want to give to it in a way that they're contributing to this community by giving a relevant product and service, and they're doing that with radical honesty and transparency and ethics. And so I think that hits a sweet spot, and I'd love to continue to build out that community here. And to say it another way, this podcast is about you. It's for you, and I couldn't do it without you. Regardless if you're a guest, a listener, or a sponsor, and you guys are the ones who are making this happen. And it's exciting to be able to partner with you together in equipping the world for success. Well, it's been said that good men learn from their own mistakes, but great men, they learn from the mistakes of others. So go and be great, and we'll see you next time.